Oh, you don't like Reggie?
I mean, it's almost a great clean soundbite. Like one guy's moment. Whoa! I didn't know you were going to say that 20 minutes ago.
That was a stunning statement.
I
from
get it.
Stan
To
Van
all of it, to everyone except for the two people who knew he was going to. Whoa!
Hey!
Go ahead. Sorry.
Only one Reggie shot per show, and you used yours
Oh,
up.
my
Like
goodness.
challenges.
Reggie, I'm nothing to do with this.
My God. Sorry.
Go ahead, Brew. Your reaction.
Look, we know how Jamal Crawford said they might be the most skilled backcourt ever.
See, that one's...
The bag. Yeah. Look, they're awesome. Both of these guys are awesome, but accomplishments do matter. Okay? Accomplishments do matter. If they've only been together for parts of 2 seasons, and one of the seasons they didn't even make the playoffs. So look, if they stay together for several more years, and if they go on to win this championship and continue to be a great team, absolutely they'll be in any discussion. But no, I actually made a list, and I didn't include them because, we'll see. They're to be determined. But these are the top 5 offensive backcourts ever. Be a little different, slightly different from just top 5 backcourts, period. Number 5, Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili. Now look, all of these groups won championships together, and all of them are Hall of Famers. Each player is a Hall of Famer or a future Hall of Famer. 5, you got Parker, Ginobili. They won 4 rings together. Now people look at their numbers and say, okay, they're good, but not awesome. Look, they played for Greg Popovich. Tim Duncan's numbers aren't like awesome. All right, for him to be a top 10 player of all time. And so I believe if they had played for a different team or a different coach, their numbers could have been much better individually. But as a duo, they were phenomenal. Number 4, Earl the Pearl Monroe and Walt Clyde Frazier won a championship with the Knicks, their last championship in 1973. 2 iconic legends there. Number 3, Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars. Now, best backcourts ever, they would be second for me because defense is a big part of theirs. Okay. But Joe Dumars, in the 2 years they won their 2 championships together, 17 and 18 points a game. In the finals, he was a finals MVP, averaging 27 points a game in their first championship, first ever for Detroit. Number 2, Jerry West, who I believe is the 3rd best shooting guard ever, behind Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. And then Gail Goodrich, sorely underrated. That year, they won the championship in 1972. Both of them averaged 25 points a game. At like almost exact same numbers, 25 points a game. That was the year they won 33 straight games, which is still a record. And they beat Kareem and Oscar. Oscar was older on his way out. But they beat Kareem and Oscar. And then they beat Walt Frazier and Earl the Pearl in the championship. And then obviously number 1, Stephen Clay, best shooter in the world and arguably the 2nd best shooter in the world.
Okay, so that's a great list. Bob Cousy and Sam Jones might have something to say
I thought that was a little too far away.
The show will be available on vinyl.
Also, can I give Brew credit before I give my take?
Yeah.
I really commend you for resisting what I know was a very difficult urge.
I know you're gonna, I hope you say
to not have Michael Jordan, B.J. Armstrong, or Michael Jordan, Ron Harper, and just say...
You know who was close? Magic and Byron Scott.
Yeah, sure, right. But that's I think that's kind of against the spirit of this, which is it's not just... Because you could also say Kobe and D. Fish. Yeah, you know what I mean? Because one guy... And so here's the question, because I think that's about right. I think that you could make the argument that Isaiah and Joe... offense only should be a touch lower, but I think it's right. And I also think a good what if is James Harden and Chris Paul.
We go. Oh, I thought
had they
Harden and Kyrie.
Well, yeah, any of those. I mean, but again, that's why I say accomplishments matter at least, as far as together.
Right. Harden and Chris Paul, though, at least had 2 full years together, and 1 year was great. There's 65 wins. They're up 3-2, and then Chris Paul gets hurt in the conference finals against Golden State. So here's the question I have for you. If they win the title, are they on this list? Because for me, the answer is yes. And where are they? Because if they win the title, and again, we're talking offense-only side of the ball, you can make an argument that they are behind only Steph and Clay on that list. Like, again, the West Goodrich one is difficult. But if we're certainly, I would say offensively, they would be ahead of Isaiah and Joe. I think that, and Tony and Manu, like, I think that's fair because as great as Tony and Manu were offensively, they were second and third options on their own team. These guys are the two best players.
Look, and one is potentially a top.
One of these guys would be winning Finals MVP.
Like, we feel like Luka will be a top 20 player all time.
Yes.
Somewhere in there, that discussion. And Kyrie is the best ball handler of all time. And look, Kyrie is not going to have, like, I know you look a lot, Nick, at all NBA.
He's going to have a weird career.
But some of that, obviously, he's had the off-the-court issues that have derailed him. But some of it also is just injuries.
Yes.
But you just look at Kyrie's game, he's like a top 10, like, point guard. So I look, bottom line is, because they would be on the list. Where? Probably
second or third.
Yeah, second or third.
Can I follow up with one other thing to you?
Probably third, still behind Weston Goodrich.
All right. Kyrie at his best, offense only. Do you think he's better than Klay? Klay at his best, Kyrie at his best, only the offensive side of the ball. Because that is because so much of Klay's brilliance is what a great defender he was, right? And so Kyrie, we saw him in a finals together. I thought Kyrie's better.
I would say yes. Well, the thing that hurts Kyrie's, like, Kyrie could have been on that top 75 team. So could Klay.
Right.
But Kyrie's off the court stuff always affects the view. But offensively,
I'm not talking about their whole careers. I'm talking about anything. But it's just Luka at his absolute best.
But you couldn't put him ahead of Steph and Klay because of the championships they won, unless these two go on a run.
Right, you couldn't. But it's just. But also Steph and Kyrie. I don't know. Steph and Klay have 2 championships as the duo, and then 2 championships with Kevin Durant.
Time now for Afternoon
Nick's
Headlines.
getting too cocky.
Sponsored by Dot's Sensationally Seasoned Pretzel. Nick is getting too cocky. I'm going to use my power. Caitlin Clark has played 5 games with the Indiana Fever. Increased ratings? Got it. Volcanic takes and then counter takes? Got it. Wins? Don't got it. Indiana Fever still winless. Lost their last 2 games by a total of 6 total points. First 2 games weren't close at all. Caitlin this season averaging a little less than 18, about 5 rebounds, 6 assists, shooting 32% from threes. Has some long threes, but not a great overall percentage, and a ton of turnovers. So, Nick, what do you make of Caitlin's 0-5 start?
Well, listen, obviously the team has struggled. First 3 games were against 2 of the 3 best teams in the league, in the Liberty and the Sun. The Aces are, I know the Aces have a loss. The Aces are the back-to-back defending champs. They're the best team. But the next 2 are probably Liberty and the Sun.
Liberty were in the finals.
Exactly, against the Aces. And so I don't really chalk much up to that other than Aaliyah Boston, the #1 pick a year ago, has struggled. She was an all-star last year and was excellent last year, and she has struggled.
Rookie of the year.
All-star and Rookie of the Year, exactly right. But Caitlin's been really good. And the takes and then the reaction to the takes and then people getting angry. If we talk about the WNBA like we talk about basically every sport, which is you might misstate a word or two and be like, no, you're not. Man, the best thing is when a sport becomes mainstream and we all get to kick around the topics and talk about it. So I'm just going to talk about this sport the way I talk about all sports. Caitlin Clark's been great. She's one of, if we round down on all her numbers, 17, 4, and 5. One of 8 players in the league doing that on a nightly basis. She, as far as I will compare her to the reigning MVP and 2 other really good all-star level players. If we can show that, please. Where Breanna Stewart this year, Sabrina this year, and Kelsey Plum this year. She's in line with all of them. Breanna Stewart won the MVP last season. Sabrina's one of the best players in women's basketball history. Kelsey Plum's great. And the percentages, by the way, as you know, the 3-point percentage, aside from Plum, she's beaten all of them in it. Now, that's more of her specialty. I understand that. But so what about how she's doing compared to rookies? Can we see the full list of WNBA rookies averaging 10 points a game? I can show it to you. It's those 2. So it wasn't just hype. It wasn't just, it's like, oh, they were the 2 most pro-ready.
By far the best of all.
By far. And I'm not taking a shot at Angel at all. Angel's been the 2nd best rookie. And she's shooting 35% as a big. And so this idea that, I think Brew, by the end of the year, she'll be an all-star on merit, not, and easily considered one of the 10 best players in the sport. That is a great rookie season. I didn't see anybody saying she was going to walk in and be the best player in the league in week 1. You and I said she was going to walk in and be good day 1, and I think she has been.
Well, first, the 0-5 record, you're exactly right. They've had a tough schedule. And I don't know what's happened to Aaliyah Boston.
It's crazy.
She's gone from 14 points a game last year to 8 this year, from 58% shooting to 39% shooting. So that's a problem and a big problem of why they're not winning more. She's got a lot of turnovers, Caitlin, almost 6 a game. Some of that is, look, Magic Johnson and Isaiah Thomas had a lot of turnovers. So some of that is when you handle the ball a lot and you are a creative passer. She can make all these great passes. You're going to have some turnovers, and her teammates aren't quite used to her having this.
And she was 5 a game in college at Iowa when she was.
So she's going to have some turnovers. Right. But I think some of it, Nick, and maybe even some of this affected me a little, even though I thought she'd come in, like you said, and play well. Some of this is not a lot of people not really knowing as much about the WNBA as we know about the NBA, and assuming she would come in and basically play like she did in college. Sure. All right, you wouldn't say that for the most part about somebody stepping into the NBA because people have more respect for that level of play and the difference between that and college. I think because people don't watch the WNBA as much, they didn't know, there is a distinct level difference between, Division I women and WNBA. So, but even with that gap, like Nick said, she's playing well. I wouldn't say great. You use the word great. But I think she's playing well. And I do think, Nick, last third of the season, which is about what you said, I think she will be, clearly playing at an all-star level. So is that maybe even before that.
Is that like the Wemby trajectory where the Spurs were tanking, won 22 games? This year they won 22 games, and Wemby was the star.
Look, Jordan didn't win a lot of games early. LeBron, I know he came out of high school, but didn't win a lot of games. Well, for the league, yes. To boost the league like people want it to be boosted, you would need her to start winning a little more. But Wemby's a great example. He was awesome, but they didn't win.
I also, it is, Brew and I we were all talking, but yesterday about how it feels. We were talking about why sports seems like a resurgence of sports. And I said one of the reasons I think is because everything else in the world feels political or divisive and sports doesn't. And it has really, really bummed me out that the Caitlin Clark commentary has spilled over into the more divisive than sports piece of it. I think my track record speaks for itself, where if I feel like there is a racial injustice or double standard, I'm not afraid to talk about it. And do I think that from a marketability perspective, it helps that Caitlin Clark is a white athlete? Yes, I do. But do I think that she is some great white hype, she is being elevated based purely because she's a white girl? And she's been excellent at every level, and even compared to rookies, is playing excellent. And it is such a bummer that when LeBron comes out and says, hey, guys, you know what I mean? She basically supports her. People are like, where was this for the black female basketball players? When he, by the way, did that as well. A lot of that is a bummer, because this is a cool thing where there is a sport that a lot of people cared massively about, and now more people are starting to pay attention to, and it's turned into some weird culture war stuff. It bums me out.
Okay. Bud list next.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.